Seder, ladies, let's get started with our Parsha. Okay, this week's Parsha is Parsha's Tietzei. Okay, it starts off Tietzei le'milchama al avecha. It starts talking about war. We're going to get back to that, but I want to preface it with something. Parsha's Tietzei has the distinction of being the Torah portion that has the most mitzvahs in it. The most mitzvahs. So if Parsha's Kedoshim, which is the Parsha that tells us how to be holy, has 54 mitzvahs, how many mitzvahs are there in Parsha's Tietzei?
I know the answer.
You can answer.
74.
74 mitzvahs in Parsha's Kedoshim. Okay? So what I would like to do, because we'd like to start off with a roundup of the Parsha, is everybody, guys, you need a chumash. You need a chumash for class. Here, grab a chumash, and everybody take 1 or 2 minutes and find me a mitzvah. Okay? Don't everybody stay in the first aliyah. Here's a chayenu over here. If somebody wants to look through it, here. Cynthia, try chayenu, see if you find them there. Look around. It's Parsha's Tietzei. It's in Chumash Devarim. It starts from chapter 21, verse 10. We're someplace along those. There's going to be. Wait a second. We're going to give everybody a minute or two. Find 2 mitzvahs, because somebody might take your first choice. Okay? Somebody might take your first choice. I want to just get a little bit of a taste of what's going on. What are the mitzvahs that are going on? Something that jumps out at you as interesting, weird, unusual, unexpected, or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's here. Okay? So I'm going to be quiet for a minute, and I'm going to let you guys find a mitzvah. If you have your mitzvah, just show me your eyes so that I know that you're ready. That was a weird expression, show me your eyes. I really just meant look up.
Would it be a mitzvah when you capture a woman? Would you do
Yeah. Okay. Tick, tick, tick.
That's a hard one. You shape up
Tick,
her
tick,
head
tick.
and make her look really dumb.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Alona, we're going to start with you. Give me chapter and verse so we can follow along with what you're saying.
Chapter 22, verse 13.
Chapter 22, verse 13. Okay?
If a man marries a wife and comes to her and hates her, and he makes a long-term accusation against her, swearing a bad name against her, and he said, I married this woman and I came near to her, and I did not find any signs of virginity on her. When the father of the girl and her mother should take and bring proof to the girl who brings the elders of the city to the gate. The father of the girl should say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as a wife, and he hated her. Now behold, he made a wanton accusation against her, saying, I did not find signs of virginity on your daughter, but these are the signs of virginity of my daughter, and they should spread out the sheet before the elders of the city.
So first of all, yes, that's very interesting. One thing is that Rashi says immediately, it's not like they actually bring a sheet. They just bring proof and they spread out their story so that it's all clear. One thing that's very interesting about this is if you notice what happens in the scenario. In verse 13, it says that somebody marries a woman, he has relations with her, and he hates her. Or he comes to hate her, and then what happens? Then the story starts. Meaning, this isn't, what is the source of what's happening? What's the source of his accusation? It's really coming from a place of hatred. And one of the things that Rashi points out is that, and we have it in a few different places in this parsha, where one thing leads to another. And here, starting with a mitzvah, with you're transgressing the place of hating another person, now, how do I kosher up my hate? It's not me. I'm not a bad person for hating this person. Look, they're a liar. They presented themselves as something that they are not, and therefore, I want a divorce. So it's interesting, and the sages talk about that a lot. That what was the source of his slander comes from a place not of the story but of the hatred. Does that make sense in English? It made sense in my head. Okay. I know, Sherelle's smiling, so. Okay.
Can I just say something?
The mitzvah of marrying with ketubah and betrothal comes from this verse.
I did not know that.
I
Really?
specifically.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, I specifically chose this verse on a avodah, like a work for university. So it's interesting. That's why I know.
Yafeh.
know about myself.
This is great.
Yeah,
That the ketubah comes because of this. That you have the protection there.
According to Sefer Mitzvah.
According to Sefer Mitzvah. Yofi. Okay, now give us your mitzvah. Chapter and verse.
Chapter 24.
Okay.
Verse,
Wait. Yeah.
1 second. 1 second. Yes. Verse 14.
24:14.
Yes.
Okay.
Do not take advantage of a poor and destitute laborer, whether he's a kinsman or a migrant living in one of the towns of your land. Pay him his wages on the same day before sunset, because he's poor and his livelihood depends on it. Otherwise, he will cry out to the Lord against you, and you will bear your guilt.
Right.
And the mitzvah is to pay your workers the same day.
Right. So here's an interesting, you say an interesting fun fact. If, for example, you take a taxi and when you pay the driver, have the intention of paying your worker on the day that they do their job, you actually get a mitzvah for paying the driver. Okay? So here the Torah is saying that you should pay workers the day they do their job. Practically speaking, that is true unless there is an agreement that sets it up differently. Meaning you could agree, a worker and a boss can agree that I get paid once a month, once a week, whatever the arrangement is. That is also fine. But Torah is saying, bearing such an agreement, the person has to be paid the day that they do the work for you, which would be nice if we, the question is Torah socialist or capitalist or whatever. It's like a little bit of everything. Okay, Shirel, give me a chapter and a verse in your mitzvah.
Chapter 25, verse 13.
Wait, we gotta get there.
Sorry.
Okay.
Do not keep in your pocket unequal weights, large and small. Do not keep in your house unequal measures, large and small. You shall keep a complete and just weight, and you shall keep a complete and just measure, in order that your days be prolonged upon the land which your Lord your God is giving you. For anyone doing these things, anyone who acts unjustly is an abomination for the Lord of your God. To the Lord of your God.
So I want to say something very interesting about this. Okay, today today most of us don't deal with scales like they used to in the olden days, where they have, this is what you're buying, and this is where I'm putting the weight that says how much you're getting. So the prohibition is to have, here's the interesting, the prohibition is to have uneven stones. That means this looks like it weighs a kilo, but it's really it's hollowed out in the middle or whatever, and it doesn't actually get, you have one that's the proper weight and one that's the not proper weight. The prohibition is not using it. That's a different story. Here is the prohibition against owning it. Even if you own it and you don't use it, there's something about that deception that Torah says it starts here. The problem starts here when you own something that has the potential to deceive another person. That's where the problem is already starting. It's starting over here not in your store. It's in your house. It's in your basement. It's in your someplace else. So I don't know if this means like when you get on a scale, if you're not really allowed to. Remember how we used to be able to like move the thing a little bit to adjust it? We're really only kidding ourselves, so I don't know if that's part of it. But Torah, I think it's so interesting how Torah is paying attention not only to the end result, but to the 5 steps before that. By the fact that I own it already, something is wrong. The fact that this is in my Weltanschauung, that this is something that I would want to have, Torah's ready to say, not so cool. Okay? Shula, chapter and verse.
Okay, so chapter 24, verse 21. It's like the final...
Wait. I can't move so quickly. 24, 21.
Okay. When you pick the grapes of the vineyard, you must not pick the undeveloped branches, nor pick what is left behind you. It shall remain for the proselyte, the orphan, and the widow.
Okay. So 2 things I want to say. First of all, It's the end of a slew of psukim.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the final one.
Right, but if you take a look, it starts in 19. And one of the things that's interesting is that Torah has different words for harvesting every single different thing. What is the word for harvesting wheat? Is it true in Russian also? I don't know. So in Hebrew you would say tiktzor, and in for olives you would say tachbot, and for wine you would say tivtzor. Like there's different words that talk about the different ways that we harvest things, and they all end up with the same mitzvah. That means if I forgot something, if I shouldn't take every last thing off the trees. If I forgot a bundle or something, and there's lots of laws governing it, but I don't go back. I have to be aware of the people around me who don't have, and they have the ability, once I've harvested my field, to come in and take what is left. Okay? And again, it says it for my wheat, it says it for my grapes, it says it for my olives. Again and again and again, we're having the same thing. I want to stop here for a second, so we're going to get back to you. We're going to get back to me here. Don't worry. I'm not forgetting you.
I'm so...
But it's something that's very interesting, because we have a couple of mitzvahs in this parsha, and if I'm stealing somebody's mitzvah, I apologize. So I told you it's fine too. One of the other mitzvahs that we have in this parsha has to do with a worker who's harvesting your wheat or harvesting your grapes, and that they have the ability to eat while they are working. They're not allowed to take it. They can't put it in their pockets. They can't put it in their little canisters. I have my little Tupperware, and I'm going to take some of this. You can't take anything home with you. You can't put it in your pockets, but while you're harvesting, you're allowed to eat. Okay? And what's interesting is that, again, the Torah is going to give the same example both for your wheat and for your olive and for your grapes. Okay? It's going to come up soon. And one of the things that Chassidus wants to know is a lot of Mepharshim ask, but Chassidus specifically is asking the question, why the repetition? It's the same thing, the same law. So why did we say when you harvest anything, you have to, whether you leave your eggs or the people can eat from it, what difference does it make? And one of the things that Chassidus talks about a lot, and now we're a little bit in Elul, and the king is in the field, so let's talk field for a second, okay? We have two ways of serving Hashem. We know that why are we here all together now? To make dira b'tachtonim, a home for God, blah blah blah. Right? How do we do that? How do we make a home for God? Well, we do mitzvahs. Yes, we do mitzvahs. Now the question is, how do I do mitzvahs? Do I do mitzvahs wheat or do I do mitzvahs grapes? Now, what's the difference between wheat and grapes? In a anti-carb life, like a biblical, bread was considered meal. That was considered your food. Bread was everything, right? So wheat is you cannot exist without this. It's not beautiful, it may not be fun, but you cannot live without bread. Can you live without grapes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Grapes are delicious. Grapes become wine. They take us to a place of pleasure. Wheat is not necessarily, I'm not saying bread isn't good. I'm just saying bread is very basic and very real and very honest. And grapes are sparkle and the wine and the whole. How do we serve Hashem? How do we make a home for Hashem? Essentially we need both. Right, we have Kiddush and Oaths, but I'm saying my attitude. I'm not talking about what we make a bracha on. I'm saying my attitude. How do I do Shabbos? I don't turn on anything that I don't do anything that's forbidden. Do I do Shabbos? I do it. I check the boxes and I did it. That's a little bit like wheat. But do I love it? Do I enjoy it? Does the mitzvah sparkle? Does the mitzvah have passion and energy? That's grapes. And so the truth is, Ellie, you're right. We have both. We need to have both of those things, not just because we have Kiddush and Hamotzi, but in our lives, we need to have that wheat stability. We show up, we do it. I may not be in the mood of it today, but I'm still going to do it. And that place of dedication and discipline. I know those are such terrible words. They're like, we don't use those words today of discipline and that, but that place of showing up and being consistent in our relationship with Hashem, that's very, very important. But if we're only reliable, dependable, consistent, but we're not actually any fun, I don't mean fun like whatever. I'm saying in our relationship with Hashem, is it exciting? Is it passionate? Is it intoxicating? If it isn't, but if it's only that, then we're also missing. So you're right, Ellie. We need to have both the bread and the wine. And that's why the Torah constantly is going to give us examples that have a wheat field and also have grapes. Because both of them are necessary. So when you look on a pshat level and you're like, why are you repeating this? Couldn't you just say when you harvest anything, forget something, leave it? Yes, but no, because that's not what Torah is here. It's not only here to tell us what to do, it's here to tell us how to live our lives and how to have our relationship with Hashem. And Torah is saying you need to have both. You need to both be consistent, and you also need to be able to bring the excitement and the life into it. And that's the difference between wheat and grapes.
We kind of spoke about that the other day in the Tefillah class with like Rambam and Ramban and the different opinions on why someone should daven based off out of a service to Hashem or a love for Hashem. And it was in the answer came to.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Exactly. And the answer is yes. You need both. You need both. You need both. You know, could you put on the air conditioning? I'm schmaltzing. I know you're freezing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I thank you, Shula. I appreciate it. I appreciate the love so much. Both of them on their own are missing something. Do you know what I mean? If you're only just high on God, you're not showing up all the time, but when you're there, it's super amazing. But what happens when you're not in the mood? So then you just don't come. It's something it's a theme that comes up a lot in Judaism, by the way. Sun and moon, men and women. It's something that comes up often, So here's another place where it comes up. Meir, give us your mitzvah.
You stole my mitzvah, so I'm taking my second one.
I'm sorry. Which was your first mitzvah I stole?
The one
the workers.
The picking, yeah.
Okay.
So don't judge me for my choice. It's 23 verse 13 to 15.
Wait. 23:13. Let's start. 23:13. Wait a second. Okay.
It's not the fluffiest one, so I'm sorry, but anyway.
Okay.
You shall have a place outside the camp, and today you shall go out outside. You shall have a shovel in addition to your weapons, and it will be that when you sit outside, you shall dig with it. You shall go back and cover your excrement. For Hashem your God walks in the midst of your camp to rescue and to deliver your enemies before you. So your camp shall be holy, so that He will not say a shameful thing among you and turn away from behind you. That's the last thing you would think about in a war.
And Torah is saying,
that's what
think
it's
about
supposed
it.
to do in the first place.
Think about it. That we're in an encampment when we're at war. Part of what they have, part of the equipment that's given to the soldiers is not just your M16 and your rocket launcher. It's also a shovel. Where are you going to do your stuff? And not in the middle of the camp. Someplace that's keep the camp hygienic. Okay. I'm sure it has lots of other meanings besides practical hygiene, and I could make up something, but it's not based on anything that I've seen, so I'm not going to waste our time. But I think the attention to detail, I think, is very, very important here. Ellie, chapter verse.
Yeah, chapter 24, verse.
It should have a number.
Oh, yeah, it does. 10.
Chapter 10. Chapter 24, verse 10. Wait, I didn't get... Okay, go.
When you hold any sort of debt against your fellow, you may not enter his home to take any of his property as security. You must stand outside, and the man to whom you are lending should bring the security to you outside. Can I continue?
Go, continue through 12 and 13, because it's very interesting. Yeah.
If he is a poor man, you may not go to sleep while holding his security. You must return the security to him by sunset, so that he can go to sleep in his garment, and he will bless you. It will be considered as a righteous act for you before God your God.
Right, so then now the question, okay, I lend somebody money, they give me their blanket as a security. I can't keep the blanket forever till they give me back the money. Hashem says if they have one blanket and they need it to sleep at night, you need to give it back to them every single night, and then they have to return it to you in the morning. And if it's the reverse, if it's something that they use during the day, you can keep it for the night and give it back to them in the morning. One of the things, first of all, every time I learn this, I'm like, why would you even bother to take a security for somebody? It is such a pain in the neck. You have to keep going back and they get to use it whenever they need it and you get to store it for the other time. I mean, I don't understand it on a practical level. But I think one of the things that's so fascinating to me is where Torah sets up protections for people who are vulnerable and for people who don't really have a voice of their own. And Torah says you can't just, the same thing with paying your worker on the same day and letting them eat while they're there. You can't just do whatever you want to whoever you want, whenever you want, because they have no way to protect themselves. That doesn't work. It doesn't fly. You have to be able to say, and this is my take on it, we as a society are judged by how we treat the weakest members of our society, not by how we treat the wealthy and the famous and all those. That's great. That's nice that you're nice to those people, but how do you treat the people that you owe nothing to, and who have no voice and who aren't, they don't have their own? How do you treat them? And Torah's saying, pay attention, because one person, Hashem is watching. You might say, oh, I had no idea, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. Hashem's like, yeah, I know the truth over here. And it's not like, oh, we had no idea. Yes, you need to be an advocate for those people as well. Okay, Cynthia, chapter verse.
I had it with the donkey and I lost mine.
Okay.
Pass me and then I'll come back.
We're going to give you a second to...
22:4, maybe, no?
Yeah?
The donkey?
22:4. It starts from the beginning. It starts from 22. From the beginning of 22. So there's two different parts of it. There's lots of donkey stuff going on here, Cynthia. Check 22.
It says you must not see your brother's ox or sheep wandering astray, ignore them, you must return them to your brother. But if your brother is not near you, or you do not know him, you shall then bring it into your house, and it shall remain with you until you investigate your brother's claim, and you shall then return it to him. You shall do the same for his donkey, the same for his garment, and the same for any of your brother's lost article that he loses and you find. You may not ignore it.
Right.
You must not see your brother's donkey or ox falling on the road and ignore them. You must pick them up together with him.
Right. Okay, so we have two things going on over here. First of all, the mitzvah of returning lost objects. Mm-hmm. And at great cost, almost, or great effort to you. Rashi says, animals, anything that you would find I'm losing my words, that it would cost you money for their upkeep, you're allowed to sell it and then have the money for the person, or you could use it, there's laws regarding it, but if you've ever walked around Jerusalem, there are signs all over the place. I found a watch here, I found a pair of keys. There's a mitzvah of returning lost objects to people. And it's part of it, and what the pasuk says here is, can't just pretend I didn't see it. You can't just say that v'salamta lo tuchal letalem. You can't just ignore it and say, what? On the floor, nothing. I didn't see anything, right? And you have to make an effort to actually return it. The Gemara has a fantastic story about a guy who lost some chickens. I think he lost 3 chickens, and they had a red string on them, whatever. Anyway, he comes back years later, and he's like, I wonder if anybody ever found my chickens. And he goes to somebody's house, and he's like, yes, describe your chickens. And he was like, you remember it, and they had the red string or whatever. And he's like, okay, these goats and this thing. He had a whole farm that he had continued to work from these chickens, but he constantly, for years, was remembering it wasn't his. Meaning he was allowed to use things that were going to get spoiled. He didn't have to save the eggs till somebody shows up. But he had the chickens, and they had eggs, and then he sold them, and he bought this. And it was a whole production situation going on here, and it was it's one of those fun Gemara stories. I don't know.
Similar happened to our dogs actually. My mom, not with
yeah,
but my mom bought a bunch of ducks. This was years ago, and then we lost the ducks because they went to another pond, like not so close to our farm. And then a few years later, we were like driving by, and they were the same Marler ducks or geese, whatever. But yeah.
But they were by the other people.
Yeah, and well, it wasn't. But it was like in a pond, in another pond.
So do we take them back and take them home?
No.
No,
Because the reason why they left was we had snapping turtles in our pond.
Not so fun.
Wait, what is the end of Mar? Like, did this person who made the whole province, like the whole farm going on, did he have to give back?
No, he was doing it to give it back to the person.
Like the whole farm?
It was stuff. It was like a lot of stuff, and he gave it back to him, and the guy was blown away. You have to ask Rabbi Kaufman where the story is. It's a very well known story, and I'm but it's like it was like from his small bit of chickens, he ended up like, and he was like, it was like such an amazing thing of where that chesed was. Like he could have said nobody's coming. You waited a reasonable amount of time. Nobody came. Dinner. Like it could have been that, but he didn't. And I don't remember what the end of like what was the lesson, because I don't think Torah is expecting us. And from the Psukim, it doesn't look like Torah is expecting us to go that much out of our way to take care of somebody's lost object. But I think there is this place of definitely to have this effort, make an effort to return something to somebody. I wanna make a comment about this, okay? When we talk about returning lost things, it's easy to just say, if I didn't find the watch on the floor, I don't have to return anything to anybody, right? But if you take a look, if you look at what's over here, it talks about your brother's ox or their sheep, and we know because we've studied Chassidus and we've heard this before. All of these are words that refer to our animal soul. And when we see that our animal soul is going astray, our strong passions are going off, and they're not where they're supposed to be, we can't just say, what do you want? That's who I am. Yalla. Pull it back together. It's not it is talking about returning lost objects, but it's more than that, talking about lost stuff, whether it's for ourselves, whether it's somebody that we're able to help. And one of the things that's very interesting, and I'm going to tie this to something that the Baal Shem Tov says. It says, "Lo yisira es shor achicha." You should not see the ox of your brother, blah blah blah. Right? The Baal Shem Tov teaches us that everything that you see either is a lesson for you in your service of Hashem, or there's a reason that you saw it. And I'm sure all of us have had that experience. You walk down the street with a friend, and you get to the end, and you say to them, or they say to you, "Did you see?" Fill in the blank, and you're like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Like, the things that we see are a lesson for us. So when we see something flying around, whether it's in ourselves, and maybe it's harder to find in ourselves, and sometimes we see a friend of ours whose passion is in the wrong area. If we're seeing it, that means maybe there's something we can do about it. So for us to just say, I didn't see it, I didn't notice it, what are you talking about? I have no way to talk to this person. Why would they even listen to me? Are we being honest with ourselves and saying that's really the truth? Like, really, is that the story? Or I'm hiding from my ability to shine Hashem's light in this world. And whether it's, almost the easier thing is to somebody else. What happens when they're doing something wrong, or that their dress, their garments, the garments of their soul, all of those things we talk about in Chassidus, all the things that are lost, it's easy to see it on somebody else. Oh my gosh, they are so off the track. It's much harder to see it for ourselves. And I think that now we're in Elul, and it's more important for us to look at ourselves and say, how are we doing? Where's my ox? Where's my passions lying? My sheep, the one that just kind of follows in the crowd. Where are the garments of my simla, my dress, the garments of my soul? How are they doing? Have I lost the track? Have I lost the plot with them? And sometimes we get to have a reflection. The Baal Shem Tov talks that when we see it in somebody else, it's really a reflection to ourselves. If I notice that that's something that they need to correct, possibly it's a mirror to my soul, and maybe I need to do some searching. But, meaning you learn something in Torah, and it's easy to just say, well, okay, didn't see any donkeys walking around Ben Yehuda, so I'm off the hook today. But wait a second, that donkeys, stubborn, cold, apathetic, Where is my donkey lost? Is it going someplace, and do I need to sort of pull it back a little bit? Do I need to take care of it a little bit and give it some love and redirection because it's in the Parsha this week, ladies, because we got to take care of it. So it's easy to say, I didn't see an actual animal, but Chassid is like, take it a step up and say, really? You didn't see any animals flying around totally out of control? Okay, that's interesting. You didn't look in the mirror today, clearly. Okay, I'm talking to myself, not to anybody else. Did everybody give some mitzvah? Okay, Beseder. Oh, we have plenty of time. Okay, a couple of things that I wanted to add into this conversation. Okay, so something that's interesting is that the beginning of our parsha talks about going to war, and the end of our parsha. Did anybody get to the end?
Not yet.
Yeah, no, not yet. We get to the end of our parsha. The end of our parsha is
It's Amalek.
Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you. Okay, remember what Amalek did to you when you left Egypt. How they met you on the way, and they knocked off the people who were like the people who were out of the tent, and you were all tired and da 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 da. And what do we say? Wipe them out. Wipe out Amalek. So first of all, in case you go and say that person is Amalek and I'm going to kill them, and Rivka Marga gave me permission, I do not. Okay? I'm just saying. You do not have permission to kill anybody based on the fact that they're Amalek. We do have a biblical prohibition to get rid of Amalek. It's not so easy today. The nations of the world have all been mixed up and complicated and compromised, so we don't have any like pure Amalekites, so it will not stand up in a court of law. Okay? But I want to say a few things. First of all, you know, Chassidus always talks about Amalek as the karchash or karcha b'derech, which means that they met you on the way. What's the root of karcha also? Kar, cold. Amalek is a voice in us that says, why are you so excited? Just relax. You could do your mitzvahs. Do you have to be such a crazy fanatic about it? Do you have to does it have to sparkle so much? Just chill, relax. And the thing with Amalek literally had no skin in the game. It had nothing to gain by cooling off the Jewish people, by attacking the Jewish people. In the original place where Amalek attacks, Rashi gives a fantastic, a mashal of a boiling hot bathtub, that the first person who jumps into it is going to get burned, but they'll make it easy for the next person. Okay? So when we talk about Amalek, again, it's so easy to point out, but I want us to look in and I want to say, where is the place that we're excited about something, and then somebody or we say to ourselves, oh, don't be such a crazy fanatic, don't be so excited about it, just relax, just chill. And every time we say that to ourselves, just chill, or somebody says it to us, we have to remember that it has an effect on us. And do we want it to have that effect on us? Now, there are sometimes you should calm down and you should chill a little bit, yes. But usually, when it's coming from a random person, it's not coming from a place of love and care. It's coming from a place of, I just don't want it to be, I don't get what you're doing, and I don't want it to look like that for you, and you should just stop, right? Meaning, I talk about this all the time. Like, where's the place that we need to be kind of normal and balanced in our relationship with Hashem, that we aren't flying off the cliff and saying we're high in God and that's how we're living our life. And at the same time, we should be a little high in God. We should be a little bit excited about what we're doing, and how do we find that balance? So the Amalek voice is something that we need to fight. But also, I'm just saying that it doesn't mean be a crazy person. It doesn't mean you should just be a crazy person all the time and I don't know how to balance it. I don't know how to balance it. But
Amalek is Yetzer Hara.
What? So Amalek could be Yetzer Hara. It could be Yetzer Hara. But meaning the Yetzer Hara is going to be an internal voice. The question is, sometimes it's an external voice. Everybody here is choosing paths that are slightly different than their family, to some degree. And where's the place that the family's oh, that one, they're just a fanatic, or they're just where is that a legitimate claim, and where is that just not understanding what's going on? And the place to I'm not calling family, I'm like, God forbid, don't, but I'm just saying like the place of where the voice is coming from. I think we need to be aware of where they're coming from. So Torah here is saying, if with all the, it's interesting, in last week's parsha, we were talking about laws of war. When you besiege a city, don't cut down the fruit trees. We're gonna besiege the whole city, but this tree we can't cut. We're worried about the dung. But there are sometimes we need to be able to say this is really no good. Amalek is really no good, and we need to say we're not going to just pussyfoot around it and just like be nice about it and just so well that's your truth and no. When something is really evil and really wrong, we need to be able to call it out. That's that thing. But I think for ourselves also to be able to say, where does this sit in my life? Where am I cooling myself off? And is it a good thing or is it not a good thing? And that's my 2 cents. But Amalek is again in this week's parsha, which is kind of neat. And now go back to the beginning of the parsha. Okay? So a couple of things I want to talk about. So first of all, it says the parsha is called Tietzei, when you go out. And the parsha says Tietzei lemilchama al ovecha, when you go to war against your enemies. V'nasano Hashem lokecha b'yadecha, Hashem will give him into your hands. And then it goes on to the whole story of a shvisa shivya, and you get a captive. And it's going to continue on with the story of in the course of war, what happens if you see a beautiful girl, a beautiful woman, and the soldiers want to take her, and Torah says, Rega, you want it? There's a procedure for this. You need to bring her into your home, and she needs to sit. That has a whole thing. You have to, take off her beautiful clothes, and it's so funny because we don't think of it in terms of when you think of modern day warfare. You don't think of civilians on the side, but if you were to think of, first of all, olden games and our more modern, not warfare, but our kilu war games, right? Who's on the side of every sports team? Cheerleaders, right? They're there to distract the other team and to liven up the show, right? So in olden days, they had where the battle was really very frontal. There were women on the battlefield on the side to distract the other team, and if we're so sure that we're going to win, they were there to take spoils and whatever, and to cheer on their soldiers. It was literally like a football game, but with things that would really kill you, So what happens? So you take her home, and you take all these beautiful clothes, and she sits there and she cries, and da-da-da-da. And then Torah says, if you decide not to marry her in the end, then you need to set her free, and you're not allowed to use her as a slave, and you're not allowed to whatever. Okay.
That's after you rape her and everything.
Well, Torah is saying you can't just rape her on the field. You have to take her home and say and marry her. You can't just rape her. You have to marry her. So bring her home, let her sit with the family for a month, see how this whole thing is going to work, and then see what you want to do about it. It's really weird. It's a weird mitzvah. Okay? That's first of all I want to say that it's a weird mitzvah.
Does she have to convert?
She would have to convert, and she would say she's there and she's crying for her family, and da-da-da-da-da. It's like it's a whole situation going on over there.
It only makes you want to hate her and not bring her home like the boss.
Right. Listen, Torah, there's a certain place where Torah is sort of saying not to get involved with this, and how do we Rashi says we understand that people are in a time of stress and war and emotions are running high, and they would want to take this woman on the side of the battlefield, but no, take her home, do the civilized. And there's something, so then I want to just say a couple of things. First of all, then Torah has this whole thing that if you end up doing this, you end up marrying her, you're going to end up hating her, and there's a whole downhill slide from here, okay? But what does it mean? What does it mean? What does this mean to have a nifastar, this beautiful woman that you see in a battlefield? Like, what does that mean for us? Okay, what does it mean for us? Because, so Chassidus explains that, back to our why are we in this world? We're here to make a home for Hashem. How do we do that? Every single day is a war. every single day is a war. From when we get up in the morning till we go to sleep at night, how we react and how the choices that we make, and if we're going to be nice before we had coffee, and all the choices, we're going to eat kosher food and we're going to make a bracha, and all of those things are choices that we make every single day. And it's a battle. Some of them are easy battles and some of them are harder battles, and some of them we win and some of them we don't. And Chassidus says, but what is the beautiful, there's somebody here there's something beautiful here. And Chassidus explains that it's the neshama that got captured by the body and that got captured by all the physicality. And can you somehow free the neshama that wants to do mitzvahs? You're so busy, we're so involved in our lives and our material and our busyness, we forget that there is like this beautiful voice inside that's saying, I'm not in the right place. I'm not in the right place over here. And the person can then find the neshama and talks about how she cries for her family, for her mother and her father. And Chassidus explains that the father is Hashem and her mother is the Jewish people. And the neshama wants to be connected. And what's really neat, it talks about that. It says that she cries for Yerech Yamim, for like a month. And what is the month that we are now we find ourselves in right now? We're in Elul, and this is the time we're supposed to go back to our father and our mother and to really reconnect. So we have, and if you take a look for a second, we know the abbreviations of Elul. One of the famous ones is Ani, Ledodi, Vidodi, Li. What's the last letter of each of those words? A Yud. You have a Yud. Ani, Ledodi, Vidodi, Li. 4 Yuds is how much time? 40. From Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur is the time that the neshama is actively crying out to go back to their mother and their father, and we have the ability, and in Hebrew the expression is in I don't know how to say it in Sephardic, I have to say it in Ashkenaz, we have the Nesinas Koyach. We're given the ability to actually do it, and we have the ability in this month. It's in the air. The energy is there for us to tap into to actually help our neshama connect back to where it really wants to be. So I thought that's really kind of neat. Give me one more second. And the other thing that's really very, very, very amazing, because like this idea of going to war, we do it all the time. We do it on our personality traits, and we do it on our anger, and we do it on our exhaustion, and we do it all the time. And what does the Torah tell us? Ki Tietzei lemilchama al ovecha. When you go to war against your enemies, but al could also be on your enemies. When I go out and I know I got this, then Hashem's like, yes, you got this. And Hashem gives the enemies into our hands. The question is, what is our starting point? Are we, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I'm going to be successful in this. Whenever we go into an endeavor and we're not really so sure, some of those are a little bit harder to get to a success point. But when we go and we're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a visa. I'm gonna whatever it is that we're like, we got this, we can do this. In our Avodas Hashem, something that we say we want to do this. There's a mitzvah, there's something we want to try to do, and it sort of somehow never really congeals. But when we're like, sometimes we wake up, and Elul is a great time to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I can do this. I really can. And you're ready to put in the work. You're ready for it to be a fight. You're ready for the milchama. You're ready for the war. But alevecha, you're going to get it. You're going to be there. It's going to be assured that you're going to have it. It's already going to be there. You're already going to be able to be successful. So I'm going to take your question in a second, Ellie, but I want to give us all a bracha that our pasuk, our parsha starts with war and ends with war, right? And for ourselves, and there's lots of stuff going on in here. It's so interesting. Rabbi Steinsaltz has a whole essay about what's the theme of this parsha, and in his very long way, Rabbi Steinsaltz says there is no theme. And if you want to know how do we connect to Hashem, everything counts. Everything is a bridge to Hashem. Some big mitzvahs, some little mitzvahs, the donkeys and the murders, everything that's going on Or there are all ways for us to connect. He says the theme is that there is no theme. It's not group. The mitzvahs are in group neatly. Everything. It's like it looks like a balagadi. Like you read the parsha, you're like, I don't understand the connection. I don't know what's going on over here. It's like all over. He's like, that's how we connect Hashem in every single little way we connect Hashem. So I want to give us a bracha. We have kayach for our fight. That our fight should be for Hashem. We should not at the end be chilled off or cooled off. We should be able to wake up every single day with energy to start again, to put our best self forward, to be able to say, in this month of Elul, we are going to liberate our soul. One more step, one more idea, one more something, and hopefully, please God, that spark is the last thing that we need for the Geula. Have an awesome rest of the day.
Beautiful. Thank you.